Metal Mike coming at you. It's Saturday morning. It is December 5th. It is 2013. And I'll tell you what, there's not much going on today for me other than taking it easy, watching the kids, and going through my treasures and really kind of trying to reorganize myself. And when I say reorganize, basically motivation. I need to motivate to sell. I need to sell my items on eBay. Now, if you look at a lot of my older videos, I have a lot of tubs and all my inventory is backed up. I certainly have the inventory. Now it's just a matter of taking the time to list the items on Craigslist and eBay. Now, I myself have gotten away from eBay, to be honest with you. I do love it. Recently, a few months ago, I sold quite a few items for somebody on eBay, and I did very well, but that was at a commission, and I usually don't even like to do that at a commission for anyone. I don't like to sell. I like to go out, buy it, resell it, and me benefit all the profits. But he had some really interesting stuff, and I did quite well on it. So, today, Saturday, what am I going to do? I'm going to watch American Pickers. I'm going to watch Salvage Dogs. I'm going to watch anything I can, Cash Cowboys. Just really feeling that spark of wanting to get out there Monday morning for me. Being it's the new year and with Christmas now under my belt and New Year's under my belt and this fresh new year to start here, January. I'm excited. I really want to get out there and find some old architectural, some old building places. I want to find some old basements, some old attics to dig in, some old barns and garages. I really want to get in an old dusty garage. It's been quite a while since I've gotten into a hoarder type old garage where I've got to forage. Remember when I always say when you get into like a hoarder situation, or not even a hoarder, let's just say an old barn or garage that's been piled up for the last 25, 30, 40, 50 years, the longer the better, obviously. You always want to forage close to the walls because that's where the oldest stuff is. Now, let's give you something fun to look at besides my ugly mug on this Saturday morning. These are a couple of pieces that I picked up a couple of weeks ago, if you look back on my videos, where I got very excited, where I had gone up to a house and knocked on the door to a senior citizen, and she allowed me in, and she sold me a few items. Well, I've got a couple of them, and I'm going to show them to you now from that. First off, which I'm going to keep, obviously, in my personal collection. You see, it's an old, I believe, Turner dump truck, steel pressed. It's really great. I don't know if you're going to be able to catch it here, but I'm going to get down on the floor for you and see if we... Now, the logs were actually cut by her husband, a former police officer. He had made that up so that he could make that dump truck look really great. Now, this is a large-size dump truck, and I'm going to turn a light on here for you, so don't mind me with my crappy shooting. Actually, we'll skip the light. But just look at that paint on that. All the wear and tear of a child playing with it over the years. This is just a super, super piece. All the rubber is intact on the tires. Now, I paid $100 for this truck here along with another one. And if we go on there, yeah, the tire is marked Turner. So that's really a great piece. So I paid $100. Now this truck is, you know, let's be honest, maybe it's only worth $100 if I'm lucky, $150. But that's going into the private collection. That's for retirement. Pieces like that, you know, when there's a little history behind them, and let's face it, that's a super piece. I'm going to hold on to it. Now here's a really super one. Everything's super, right? But this is a great piece. This is the coolest pressed steel car I have ever come across. Now look at that. That is Art Deco. This is huge. Look at my hand compared to it. I can't find a name on it. I don't know if it's Wyandotte, Struckel. I don't know who made this. The tires are all rotted out, as you can see. And it's got a steel plate bottom, which you don't see a lot of the time. Now, obviously, the tires dry rotted out, old white rubber. But overall, the condition of the car itself, the paint is nice. Look at that patina. I'm sorry, I'm sure the lighting is not so well early morning here in Minnesota, but just a great looking sedan. I just love it. Now, I want to find more of these, of course. Who wouldn't? Let's set this video camera down here and speak to you for the last couple of seconds. Who doesn't want to get out there and find an old truck like that, an old Turner truck and an old Art Deco sedan for the collection? Now, when I say it's for the collection, does that mean that it's not for sale? You never know. A lot of the time what I'll do is collect these pieces, and then you kind of, the excitement, of course, is when you first get them. But then it's always about letting an item go and selling it to somebody else. I've never really gotten into that I'll never sell it mode unless you're really trying to think financially and for the future. And that's what I'm really trying to do. A lot of the pieces, the finer pieces, I consider these finer pieces. Are they big money tickets? No, 100, 150 top dollar. But that's right now. Now, knock on wood, I've got a long plan to live a long life. And I want to make it to 100. That's my goal. 45 years old right now. If I get so lucky and I still have these pieces, well, it'll be great because these are what I want. When I always talk about dreaming of having the shop with the coffee, the pot of coffee, the fresh donuts, the cookies, and just a place where people can come in and bullshit. These are the items that I want sprinkled throughout my shelf. I want young guys to, I want to be able to feel that power someday to have some young collectors, guys, ladies, whoever, come into my shop, have a donut, have a coffee, and meet me and share my experiences over the years of picking. That's what I dream of, that's what I strive for, and that is my goal in life, to get there. And then what I'll do, obviously, then I'll have all these young people drooling over my treasures, and won't that be fun? And then I will give them some nice deals, and I'll sell them. And at that point, you know, you can't take it with you. You can't fit it all in the casket, unless you're real lucky. If I could have a fantasy, I would build a mausoleum like King Tut, and I would surround myself with these treasures. What for, I guess? There's really no purpose of that, is it? Because I wouldn't be able to benefit from it. But boy, it's nice to fantasize about. But I'm going to sell my items in my retirement, cooler items like this, and military items. So I try to keep the high end. And that's what I always talk about, upgrading, starting on the low end from going out, picking dumpsters, grabbing everything from an old vacuum that works or an old television that I've touched base on where you can maybe get 20, 25 bucks. This is a building process because in between these type of finds, that's what you're going to find. You're going to find just basic household goods that you can flip and double your money. Now remember, doubling your money, if it's even $1, is something. It's better than $1 on its own. $2 is always better than $1. It's a slow process. When I go out to the flea markets, I sell things for $1, $2, $5, $10, $15. Not big money, but at the end of the day, I got a wad. Be it doesn't add up to much, maybe $300, $400, but it's something, and you have to remember where you started at, 0. So what that does is that pans my pocket and allows me to go out, get into old houses like this, offer an old senior $100 for a couple old toys, and just upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. And you always want to do that. Don't always sell your best stuff. I made the mistake years ago, but I guess I really didn't have a choice when I first started in the business. Boy, there's some treasures looking back on now that I would never let go of. One time, I was digging in a dumpster. It was the middle of winter, and oh geez, it must have been about 10 to 15 degrees below 0, if not 30 below 0. And I had found a dumpster, and it was just loaded with 1920s, 1930s. It was a time capsule. And I had packed my van. I had salvaged just dumpster from one end to the other. And remember, in that kind of weather, it is cold. I didn't even have gloves on, if I remember right. My hands were bitter. And I had filled the van. The van was loaded, packed with treasure. Really great stuff. We're not talking rubbish. We're talking real vintage great pieces. I looked down into the dumpster, and there was one of those old spring box springs, just where it's just springs. It's from the real old early 1900s bed. And I talked to myself when I'm not talking to you, and I'm not talking to someone, and I'm out picking, I'm talking to myself. So I had said, I leaned over, and my back was hurting, everything, and I seen this mattress down, and I said, and I'm talking to myself, I'm like, I'm not going in there, I gotta load, my back hurts, oh hell, I'm frozen. I don't know what got into me, but I jumped in that dumpster, and I made that last little bit of effort, extra energy, and flipped that mattress over. Now underneath there was an amazing old German World War II cap from Africa. Now it wasn't the typical pith helmet that you see. You can look those up. It was, I believe, gosh, I want to call it an M34 hat or something. I forget the exact code for it. I sometimes forget when I get caught up with my German stuff, because the Germans had helmets. They had an M42 helmet, an M35 helmet, an M34 helmet, and then they also had these long-billed caps with a long duck bill on it. in Africa. Not the pith helmet, mind you. That's your typical pith helmet that you can see. And those are very easy to find on the market, German World War II. I'd say a good price on one is about $250 mint condition. If you were going to get one for a deal, if it was beat up, between $100 and $150. So I always try to stay in that market. Well, I found one of these long build, it's almost like a baseball cap. I'm going to go ahead and call it an M34, even though I'm sure that's not what it is called. And wow, what a super piece. The insignia had been removed, the eagle with the swastika and such, but you could still see the outline from where it had been. Now this is very common in World War II. There's a lot of, actually, here in Minnesota, retired German soldiers that came here to the States, Wisconsin, Minnesota, because when they were captured in Africa, they were brought back here to the States to be used as, let's face it, slave labor. It wasn't called that. It was basically the United States' own version of a concentration camp, but we can't call it a concentration camp, I guess. It was just a holding camp for prisoners of war. So prisoner of war camp. And there were lots of them here in the Midwest. And they would bring these German soldiers back here, and they would work in the farms, and they would do that. Well, after the war ended, a lot of these men decided to stay here in the States rather than go back to East and West Germany. It was just a nightmare. They wanted nothing to do with Russia. So that's why you do have a lot of former World War II German soldiers here in the States. And everywhere from Cincinnati to Minnesota to Wisconsin. They're spread out all over the country, and there's a lot of them still alive, as well as U.S. World War II vets still alive. So this guy had been a retired German soldier. He brought back the cap, and a lot of this stuff just went into everyday use. Pull the insignia off of the swastika. Very common after World War II. The stuff came home in the bucket loads. If you had an older brother, he sent home a trunk for his younger brother, and belt buckles. I've got pictures of like a young boy from the 1950s. It looks like right out of Leave It to Beaver, and he's wearing the German Wehrmacht belt. Very common. There wasn't that stigma attached to it that exists today. It was just really kind of, it was a war trophy, and that's what it was. So getting back to that, get out there, get picking. Man, I tell you, I'm really feeling it. There's snow on the ground. It's bitter cold out. And I still feel that I want to get out there and hunt. And I will on Monday morning. I'm going to hit the thrift shops. I'm going to hit the junk shops. I'm going to hit a couple antique stores and forage around. I like to go into old antique stores that have been there for a long time. And if I can get permission of the owner, which you can usually do with just a little sweet talking, and when I mean that, just be yourself and speak the truth. Say, hey, I sell, buy and sell. Can I dig around? If you can get that thumbs up from an owner, you'd be surprised what ends up behind a counter, under a shelf, in a box that ends up forgotten. A lot of broken items where they think, oh, you know what, it's a little rough. Well, the market has changed. A lot of that broken stuff now is highly in demand. People actually prefer that to the mint stuff because I guess the history is just so much more significant and you just know that it's real. So, what can I say? I'm looking out over, I'm looking out my back windows here. I can see the frozen lake. And I can see the beautiful sunrise in the background, and all I can think about is treasure. I can see it, I can feel it. I've always felt that way when I've gotten out picking. I'm rambling, of course, but that's part of who I am, so I'm just going to keep rambling for you until I'm done. Storytelling is my passion, as well as junk and antiques. But almost like a water vein, you know, where you just led to water. If you ever seen the old cartoons, the guy's got the old water vein and he finds the water. That's how I feel sometimes. I have like a green thumb for finding treasure. I've always felt confident that way. And I've had some people say, oh, you're going to curse yourself. No, I honestly feel that I'm like an urban archaeologist. I love that term. Maybe I'll even use that as my business name at some point and change it from Buzzard Junk and Antiques to the urban archaeologist. I'm sure there's a million other of those urban archaeologists out there, but I've always felt like just a draw, a pull, I don't know what it is. I'll be driving and all of a sudden I'll whip down a certain alley and boom, there'll be an old antique oak, who knows, commode or dresser, just some beautiful mission oak piece, or maybe I'll find some old 1960s toys. It's luck, it's a gut feeling, and it's just getting out there, man, making that effort, and then feeling it too, envisioning it. As ridiculous as that sounds, I've always envisioned, like, as I'm driving, pedal cars and boxes of old toys, and I'll be damned if I don't find them that way. You just picture it, and you make it come true. It's like that with all things in life. It's like a blueprint. Always run through what you want and see it in your head, whether it be getting a business, building that you want to purchase at some point, or a new truck, whatever it is, envision it, and it can come true. It really can. So, Metal Mike, rambling, ranting, raving, what was going to start out as just a short video for Saturday for you, has now turned into a long, babbling talk. But I'll tell you what, guys and ladies, get out there, find that treasure for me. And remember, I'm always buying World War II German items and World War I, and I also do trades. I do U.S. World War II as well, and of course Japanese, anything military from trench art. I'm all over the place today. I can't help it. But, yeah, I just want tons of vintage and junk and antiques. So if you ever have anything that's interesting, if you're a collector or a picker and you see something in the background or maybe a piece that I've shown in one of my videos that interests you and you've got an old German helmet, shoot me an email right through YouTube here and say, hey, you know what, I like that old tractor I seen behind you, or I like that taxidermy piece, or whatever it might be, and I've got a German helmet or a bayonet. I love to trade. It's been a long time since I've done a real good trade, but I'd love to get one. So, got some World War II stuff, got some German World War I, American, Japanese, trench art, old toys, heavy metal albums, records, all from the 1980s, old concert t-shirts, posters, flyers, tour books, Kiss dolls, you name it. I love it all. Old skateboards. If you got an old skateboard from the 1980s, send it my way. I'll send you whatever you see in the background. We can work a trade out. Metal Mike, Junk and Antiques, Buzzard Junks, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Always picking, always hunting, and never shutting up, right? Hey now! Get out there and pick, y'all. Have a great Saturday. Peace.